morning, guys. Welcome back to the channel. Today it is a Wednesday. Weather's not looking very promising, but I've had a couple people ask me about the TR6 ignition that I have in the car, and figure that right now that I have some spare time, it'd be a great time to make a video about it. I will show you some of the features that make it super useful, and then I will also trigger some of the codes to show you how it displays. I will walk you through the inside of the ignition box or the ignition module and just show you my setup. So let's get started. Here I have my TR6. This is just the outside view of it. It's nothing much to it. Pretty much the box, the coil. I just ran an extra ground just for my own pickiness. And yeah, fits under the hood, clears everything around it. The TR6 can be ran with this coil or the individual coils that would go over the valve cover, which is I eventually plan on switching over to that. Just plans change. Right now I'm working on this tearing down this engine to drop it off at the machine shop and get a forged internal engine built. But otherwise, pretty much this is what it looks like on the exterior. Down here it is plug and play. Other than that, that's what you see over here. And let me show you the inside of it. So I have removed the 6 screws that hold the lid down and taken off the wires on this side just to be able to flip it over to the side. So this is what you'll find inside. As you can see, that's the coil sideways. Inside you're gonna find all these dip switches and different configuration switches. All these have different functions. Mode 1 is your base timing. Mode 2 I think is the one that you use for when you're gonna do a software update and stuff like that. Mode 3 is one of the most useful ones, which is your cam sensor facing. Then you have your spark mode as a mode 4. Safety mode I think it was 5. 6 is for 6, 7 and 8 are the ones for the two-step. Like, it allows you to retard the timing when your two-step is activated and so on. But pretty much that's what you get for the dip switches over here. And then you have the dip switches for the rev limiter and for the trigger limiter, which is your two-step. And that pretty much wraps it up in the inside of the TR6. Now I'm going to show you the cam facing and some of the triggers on the inside. And also I'm going to show you how I had my two-step RPM setting set up. So let's close this up. So yeah, remember that dirty looking cloud? It got here a lot quicker than I expected it to get here. Now we're back inside of the car, and now I'm going to show you some of the other features that made the TR6 very useful for me, which is the code display on the tachometer, which I actually have triggered a code 13 just to show you, and then how I have my potentiometer and switches set up for the two-step. So here, hold on, let me get a little better angle there. So here we have the display on the tachometer, on the factory tachometer. So this is how the display shows the code that the TR6 is putting out. You have a 1 and then a 1, 2, 3, which is a code 13 for the cam sensor missing or mistimed, which is what I did by disconnecting it. Another one of the really cool features on the TR6 is the two-step, which I usually have it on this potentiometer, and you pretty much run the wire from the TR6 to this and this to ground, and you adjust your resistance pretty much. The problem I'm having with these potentiometers is that they seem to increase in resistance over time. So I would have to keep going lower and lower on the number, and then it would get to a point where my lowest setting would not be the 2600 RPM range to where the two-step is useful for me. So what I ended up doing was switching it to the internal settings on the TR6, which is just dip switches, and then I have it set up to come on or off on these switches. Actually, this one was for power, and then this one is for the switch down there. So in other words, this arms it, this activates the switch, so that way I'm not constantly feeding back and forth on that wire. Again, that could be just be me because I'm picky, because the wiring has to be a lot simpler. But anyways, so these switches, and actually let me turn them off now. Yeah, turn off. And then you have the pedal switch, which pretty much when you're staging or brake boosting or whatever, you don't have to be holding a different switch, because I had originally put it right here, but I came to realize that having it on the pedal was a much smarter technique, and then this button's just open for now. So now I'm going to show you guys the cam sensor facing mode, where the tachometer is going to read smack in the middle, and then if it's advanced, it's going to go to the left. If the cam sensor is retarded, it's going to go to the right. And this helps you dial it in for tuning or whatever purposes. According to the instructions, it says that you're supposed to be slightly advanced. So now that I start the car, you see this is in the middle. And as you can see, my cam sensor is a little bit retarded. So I'm gonna go show you how to do the adjustment right now. So I have an adjustable cap. If you don't, this might be a little more involved. Actually, I don't think you can adjust the factory cap. But in this one, you just come in here, and I know it's hard to see, so you're gonna have to just believe me. But I'm undoing the screws on the sides of the cap. And then what I'm doing here is just pushing it down just a hair, and then tightening it back up. And that should give me that slight advance. So the little bit of a adjustment should allow me to have it that smack in the center. And there we go. Now, let me turn this off so you guys can hear me better. So in my car, for whatever reason, if I try to advance it as the instructions say, it will not start. I tried taking out the cam sensor and putting it 180 degrees out, but that did not change anything actually. It just ran exactly the same. So yeah, if you happen to know why that's happening, you go ahead and leave me a comment. But otherwise, that was the facing mode, and now I just gotta go back under the hood. So now I just gotta come back under the hood and turn off that mode 3. Bam, turned off. And that's pretty much it. 6. Now, why did I switch originally? I switched originally because my module was going out, and I did not want to pay $250 for a factory module, and then an extra $100 for a coil. I coughed up the extra money, and I also got lucky. I was able to find it at the forums, and yeah, I scored I believe I got it for $500 with the wires, and it just has all these little features that made it, they just put it above stock coil. So all these features that I have shown you are the features that I have found most useful out of the TR6. These are things that maybe some of you might not think are useful, in the sense that you've just gotten used to doing it the old way. But to me, being able to dial in that cam sensor and then having the two-step. So we just went over the features that I find useful out of the TR6. Whether you need it or not, that's a call for you to make. I will tell you that it's made my life easier, in the sense that, like I showed you, the cam sensor facing, the error codes, it warns you it'll warn you even if it changes as you're moving, which is what it did for me, because it started throwing a code 13. Pretty much saved me from being left stranded, because I knew if I turned the car off, I was gonna have a no start condition. Again, it's a call for you to make, whether it's worth it or not. I do run 35 gap, which actually is not a 35 anymore, it's a 28 now. But I do believe that I can run it back to the 35. I just went with 28 because a lot of people say higher boost, less gap. I believe that this coil has the hump behind it to close that gap. I don't know if you've seen my previous video, that spark pretty much jumps like 6 inches if you take one of the plugs off from the coil. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe, hit the like button.